The cold North Sea mist hung over Wilhelmshaven in the early hours of March 1919. Rust streaked the hulls of massive warships, or once proud superstructures, casting long shadows across empty docks. The sound of distant cranes clanging echoed through the silence. In the twilight, only a few sailors remained aboard these hulking vessels, their decks eerily empty, their guns silent. The air carried a faint smell of salt and fuel. Mingled with the lingering smoke from the fires of war, few would have guessed that these dormant giants had once threatened the Royal Navy itself, at their steel hulls designed for speed, firepower, and terror. Yet now they sat immobile and almost forgotten in the aftermath of Germany's surrender. What would become of them remained uncertain. Fate hung in balance, dictated by treaties, politics, and the fragile post-war order. By November 1918, the First World War had ended. The German High Seas Fleet had sailed from Kiel under strict orders to surrender, a gesture meant to prevent chaos as the armistice was signed on November 11th. Among the surrendered ships were Germany's battlecruisers. Vessels like SMS, Derfflinger, Lützow, Hindenburg, and Seydlitz. Designed for speed and firepower over armor, these ships had engaged in the largest naval actions of the war, including the Battle of Jutland in 1916. Their crews were exhausted, their ammunition stocks depleted, and the once celebrated steel had begun to corrode. Allied powers faced a difficult decision. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in June 1919, dictated the distribution of Germany's navy. The British Royal Navy, still the world's preeminent naval force, took responsibility for overseeing the fate of these warships. They needed to prevent Germany from reconstituting a naval threat while satisfying public and political demands for post-war security. The battlecruisers were now pawns in a broader geopolitical calculation, symbols of both German naval ambition and Allied supremacy. The scale of Germany's battlecruiser program had been unprecedented. The Derfflinger class, launched between 1913 and 1917, displaced over 26,000 tons each. Their main armament consisted of 8 30.5-centimeter guns capable of firing 750-pound shells at ranges exceeding 20 kilometers. Crew complements exceeded 1,000 men per ship. In total, Germany had planned or completed 7 operational battlecruisers by war's end, though several were unfinished. When combined with the larger battleships and smaller cruisers, the High Seas Fleet represented over 250,000 tons of capital ships. For context, Britain's entire Grand Fleet at the same time included roughly 500,000 tons of battleships and battlecruisers. After surrender, each ship was meticulously inspected. British naval engineers and intelligence officers conducted detailed surveys, measuring armor, propulsion systems, and armament layouts. The Derfflinger, in particular, drew attention for its superior fire control systems and innovative armor scheme, which allowed it to survive multiple hits at Jutland. Seydlitz had famously endured 21 direct hits in a single engagement. These assessments were intended not only to inform potential reuse, but also to understand German naval design philosophy for future war planning. Planning the post-war disposition required careful coordination. Some ships were allocated to the Allies as reparations. Derfflinger and Lützow were ceded to Britain, while Hindenburg was assigned to the United States. Others were intended for scrapping in Germany under Allied supervision. Operations involved towing massive hulls from Wilhelmshaven and Wilhelmshaven and Wilhelmshaven. Waldse, process complicated by weak cranes. Damaged dock facilities, and limited tug availability. These were not small vessels. Seydlitz alone measured 212 meters in length, requiring specialized equipment just to dock safely. Technical and logistical limitations quickly became apparent. Political considerations added further complexity. Public opinion in Britain demanded the destruction of German capital ships to prevent a resurgence of naval power. At the same time, Allied commanders sought intelligence from captured vessels, balancing destruction with the need to study German designs. Many ships were deliberately flooded or scuttled in shallow waters to meet both objectives, ensuring they would not return to service while remaining accessible for post-war study. The scuttling of the High Seas Fleet at Scapa Flow on June 21, 1919 exemplified these tensions. German crews, unwilling to allow their ships to fall intact into Allied hands, sank 52 vessels, including battlecruisers Seydlitz, Hindenburg, and Moltke. Only a few ships, like Derfflinger and Lützow, remained intact for transfer. British salvage operations over the following decade recovered several vessels for scrap, though many remain partially submerged to this day. The sheer weight, size, and depth of some wrecks made complete recovery uneconomical, leaving a maritime graveyard in the Orkney Islands. Allied investigations revealed surprising insights. The American Navy noted that German naval design had prioritized speed and firepower at the expense of armor, a philosophy that had mixed results in combat. British reports emphasized that German engineers had achieved remarkable propulsion efficiency, with Derfflinger-class turbines outperforming contemporary British designs by as much as 10% in fuel economy at cruising speeds. These studies informed interwar shipbuilding programs, influencing both treaty-limited cruisers and the next generation of fast battleships. Postwar disposal proceeded with both pragmatism and pragmatics. Ships ceded to Allies were stripped of valuable equipment before being scrapped in the early 1920s. Economic considerations dominated. Steel was recycled to rebuild post-war industries devastated by conflict. Preserving complete battlecruisers was deemed politically unwise and financially prohibitive. Some smaller vessels were used for target practice, providing lessons in gunnery and armor effectiveness that shaped naval doctrine in the 1930s. Historians today consider the fate of Germany's World War I battlecruisers as a study in ambition, desperation, and the limits of naval power. They highlight that, while these ships represented the pinnacle of German naval engineering, their strategic impact was limited by logistical constraints, wartime shortages, and political realities. Lessons learned from their design and disposal influenced not only interwar naval treaties, but also early World War II strategies, particularly in the emphasis on fast, versatile capital ships capable of long-range engagement. Returning to Wilhelmshaven in 1919, the docks were quiet once more. The hulks of the once mighty battlecruisers leaned gently in the tides, their guns silent, their decks empty. Time and tide would erase much of their presence, leaving only fragments of steel and memory. What had been built with immense ambition now rested as a testament to the complexity of war monuments, not to victory, but to planning loss and the relentless arithmetic of history. The sea claimed them slowly, as it would claim many such symbols of human endeavor, leaving only questions about what might have been.